If you could only choose one to stay and the other would go away forever, would you choose to keep equalization or would you choose to keep time alignment? You can only choose one and the other one goes away forever.
Oh, man. You can go first.
Well, I'm going to say time alignment. I'm going to keep time alignment if we're talking about it in a car, because in a car, there's just so many things you can't get around without time alignment. So I'm going to say time alignment, but I'm assuming we're using perfect equipment, perfect speakers, and so it doesn't need any equalization.
Ooh, I'm going to have to keep equalization.
Okay. Do you have a reason why?
While everything does need, every vehicle is going to need some sort of time alignment to do from a single seat position. My daily ride around is 2 seats. So there's virtually no time alignment to that, all equalization. Plus, if you can EQ a car right and you can get speaker placement correctly, very little time alignment's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think you just tapped into Mark.
Ding, 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 ding.
Tricky question.
Exactly. Well, and if you think about it, 99% of people out there, probably 99.9%, could care less about image placement and staging and all that. As long as it sounds, as long as Kip sounds like Kip, and that's what's important. And equalization is by far the most important aspect. And that can be using, it's not just the EQ, you have crossovers, you have other factors that EQ equalization. And for years, until the early 2000s, we didn't even have signal delay.
Right. Now, hey, you know what? And there can be a trick question to this, Kip. I know we'll get to you in a minute. Listen, there is a trick to this too. Are we counting out phasing also?
Are we counting out phasing?
Are we leaving phase adjustability?
Well, you're talking about an all-pass filter. That's a digital version of equalization and signal delay. I mean, it's some of both.
There you go.
It's some of both. So that's
So what this question opened up, and Mothra jumped all over, which is pretty cool. We see the people watching the show bring this up. Says technically, you could do some time alignment with equalization. And I don't know, Mark, and I'd love to get your input on this. I've always considered it to be somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 Hertz or 2 to 3K. But really, when you get up into frequencies and start getting so short, you really can't time align a tweeter. But if you're in a car and you're trying to get the sound to give you that center image perception, you can do what's called frequency steering, which is basically what you're doing is you're EQing or gain controlling the amount of frequency coming from left versus right.
Yeah.
And so I've always heard, at least this I've been educated, and what I've shared with people over the years is, 2-3K seems to be about the top limit as far as how good time alignment will help you. But once you get beyond that, it really has to do with equalization or frequency steering or alignment. It's not really time alignment, but it's getting your ear to perceive the intensity of a sound is here versus here because you're balancing the left and right at certain frequencies. Your input on that?
Yeah, and I'll just give you, this is a little segment out of the class. When you start talking about the frequency ranges in which we're sensitive to different things. And you're right, at about 2K, above 2K, it's all intensity. It's how loud it is on the left relative to the right, okay?
Right.
From about 400 and down, it's all about when the sound arrives. You can have from below 400 hertz, if one sound arrives a half a millisecond before the right, it's going to all sound like it's come from the left. And between 400 and 2K, it's a transition. And that all has to do with the size of our head. We have about 6 inches or so between our ears, okay? 6 inches is the path length for a single cycle at 2,000 hertz. So once you get above that, you have blocking from this side for this ear and blocking from this side for this ear. Once you get down below about 400 hertz, the wavelength is so long, there's no blocking effect on your head. We get real deep into this in the class, but just to let you know, equalization works really well above 2K, and it helps everything below that. Signal delay is exceptionally helpful below 400. It's very important up to 2K, and above 2K, sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. But polarity between the left and right tweeters can make a huge difference, because the polarity is relative to the mid on its side, not necessarily between left and right. But you're right. And taking the tweeter and just angling the tweeter a little bit so you change the dispersion pattern, that's way more effective than any time alignment you're going to do on a tweeter. So,
and when you do that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark, but when you start moving that tweeter and changing it, you're really dealing with, in a car, you're dealing with two aspects. You're dealing with, one, the on-axis versus off-axis response of the driver,
right.
And number two, as you move that in the environment, you're changing the reflectivity, where that tweeter's bouncing off of or what's bouncing off of to get back to you, which would be early reflections.